Imagine you're a toddler, right? You're just running across the playground, having a great time, and suddenly your foot catches.
Oh, the classic playground wipeout.
Exactly. You take this really hard tumble onto the concrete. Your knee is completely scraped, it's bleeding, and you're terrified.
Right, and your immediate instinct is to look up and find your mom or dad.
Yeah, you're searching for them, expecting to be scooped up, told it's okay, maybe get a hug. But instead, she just looks at you with this sheer annoyance.
Because you just ruined your expensive new jeans.
Right. And you embarrassed her in front of the other parents. And that tiny, seemingly mundane moment, that's actually where the foundation of a human ego starts to crack.
It really is. It's those micro moments.
So welcome to the deep dive. I mean, lately, it feels like society has just turned the word narcissist into this ultimate, catch-all label.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere now.
Your annoying boss who takes credit for your presentation? Narcissist. That toxic ex who ghosts you after 3 months of dating? Total narcissist.
We basically use it to describe, almost anyone who behaves selfishly.
Yeah, we really do. But today, we're skipping the adult diagnostic manuals. We're putting down the clinical labels and heading straight back to the childhood sandbox to understand where this incredibly destructive behavior actually begins.
Because we're looking at a really fascinating body of research today that unpacks the multi-factor equation of childhood development.
Right.
What we experience as a deeply toxic, manipulative adult is usually the end product of a very long, very quiet process. Narcissism it's not a virus a child catches overnight.
Like getting the flu or something.
Exactly. It's a slow, methodical puzzle built over years. And the pieces include genetics, silent neglect, overwhelming overpraise, and, the relentless pressure of our modern culture.
I actually want to start with the biological baseline, because before we lay all the blame on the parents or the environment, we have to look at what the child brings to the table.
That's a crucial starting point.
Because we often want to believe every baby is a completely blank slate, right? Like a lump of clay. But the research suggests that's not entirely true.
Far from it, actually. We have to look at genetics not as a predetermined destiny, but, as a seed. Every child arrives with innate temperamental traits pre-installed.
Pre-installed, like software.
Yeah, exactly like software. We're talking about a natural emotional threshold. So how quickly they register a threat or feel frustration.
Okay, so like how easily a baby cries or gets upset.
Right. We're also talking about their baseline for risk-taking, their innate stubbornness, and even a natural predisposition for seeking attention. Some children simply step out into the world, emitting a very specific, demanding frequency.
But wait, if a kid's seed comes preloaded with those highly demanding, attention-seeking traits, is it just a done deal?
Not at all.
Are we saying they're biologically destined to become that toxic boss who steamrolls everyone in the boardroom?
The data takes that a step further and says, no, definitely not, because the seed is really only half the equation.
The family and stuff.
Yes, the family dynamic, the caregivers, the culture, that all acts as the soil and the weather. A seed with a genetic predisposition for grandiosity might never actually sprout if it's planted in an environment that models empathy and healthy boundaries.
Okay, so the environment is key.
It is. The research provides a brilliant nuance here. Just like a severe drought doesn't kill every single seed in the ground, a flood of overwatering doesn't rot every plant. It's about how the specific environment interacts with that specific child's biological baseline.
So the environment doesn't rewrite the genetic code, but it completely dictates how that code is expressed.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the stage directors of this whole production, which are the parents.
Right.
We usually associate childhood trauma with loud, explosive events,
Right, like yelling or obvious abuse.
Yeah. But the root of this warped reality we call narcissism is often incredibly quiet. It's silent neglect.
The most profound damage often starts with an absence. Instead of a steady, reliable rhythm of love, attention, and soothing, the child experiences intermittent, unpredictable focus.
Which has to be confusing for a kid.
Terribly confusing. Sometimes they're seen, but most of the time they are emotionally invisible. Think about a parent constantly scrolling on their phone while the toddler's trying to show them a drawing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Right, and that feeling of invisibility acts like a slow drip of poison into the child's inner world.
The research connects this directly to Sigmund Freud's concept of the child's ego, but we hear the word ego thrown around so much, I feel like we kind of lose the actual mechanism of what it means in a developing brain.
That's a really good point. Think of the ego not as arrogance, which is how we usually use the word, but as the central processing unit of a child's identity.
Okay, the CPU.
Yeah, it's the mechanism that manages how they interact with reality. So when a child has intense, burning emotional needs,
Like the need to be held or validated?
exactly, the need to feel safe. When those needs are consistently met with a blank wall, the psyche panics. It realizes that reality is incredibly dangerous and painful. So it forms a defense mechanism to survive.
It creates like a psychological bandage.
Precisely, a bandage. The child internalizes a deep, agonizing wound that says, I am fundamentally inadequate. I am not enough to be noticed.
That is heartbreaking.
It really is. And to keep from collapsing under the weight of that worklessness, the developing ego applies a massive, tightly wound bandage that screams the exact opposite.
Oh, I see where this is going.
It screams, I am the best, I am superior, I am a god. The grandiosity, the constant need for admiration, the startling perfectionism we see later in life.
All the toxic stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all designed to hide the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But the pain is the very thing creating that
The
sparkle.
sparkle hides the pain, but the pain creates the sparkle. That is wild.
It completely reframes how you look at arrogant people, doesn't it?
It really does. And this dynamic gets even more twisted when we look at the specific mechanism of parental mirroring, especially when the parent themselves has narcissistic traits.
Parental mirroring is a biological necessity for human development. When a baby smiles, they look to the mother's face to see a smile reflected back.
Right? They want to see that reaction.
Exactly.
Hmm.
When a toddler is frightened by a loud noise, they look to the father's face to see comfort and reassurance. That is how a human being learns that their internal feelings are real and valid.
Okay, so the parent is literally their mirror to reality.
Yes, but in a household managed by a highly narcissistic parent, the mirror is permanently angled toward the parent.
Meaning the child completely falls out of the frame.
Exactly.
So when the child brings their sadness forward, the gaze they meet doesn't recognize them.
Right. The parent might get angry at the child for being a burden or, make the child's sadness about their own stressful day. Don't cry, you're giving me a headache, that sort of thing.
Oh, man. And in that moment, a dark little piece of logic is written into the child's survival system, isn't it?
It is. The child learns, showing my true vulnerable feelings doesn't work here. It actually pushes love away.
Huh. So what do?
They realize to stay visible in this house, I must become an extension of my parents' greatness. I must focus entirely on being impressive.
So the grandiose, self-centered behavior that we find so incredibly toxic and annoying in adults, I mean, at its core, it's just a terrified kid's survival tactic so they don't get left behind.
That's exactly what it is.
They're trying to be perfect, not to earn love, but to avoid abandonment.
That is the tragic paradox of these toxic relationships. The aggressive, dismissive behavior that destroys their marriages and alienates their coworkers in adulthood.
The stuff that gets them labeled a narcissist on TikTok.
Right. That behavior was originally engineered to keep their caregivers from turning away when they were 4 years old.
That completely flips the script on how we view these behaviors. Listen, if you're finding these hidden mechanics of the human mind as fascinating as I am, take a quick second to subscribe to the show and turn on notifications. We are always doing these deep dives, exploring the psychology behind our everyday lives, and we would love to have you along for the ride.
Understanding these mechanisms really does reframe how you look at the people around you.
It does. And that terrified survival tactic doesn't just stay in a vacuum between the parent and one child, right? It bleeds into the living room,
Oh, it infects the entire household.
turning the family structure into a literal competitive arena.
Yes. In families suffering from an attention deficit, genuine connection is incredibly scarce. And when emotional resources are scarce, sibling relationships mutate.
It's like the Hunger Games for parental approval.
That's a very accurate way to put it. The household becomes a theater where everyone is assigned a rigid role just to secure a tiny scrap of validation from the parents.
The research outlines these roles, and honestly, they are chillingly recognizable.
Very much so.
First, you have the scapegoat. This is the child who is forced to carry all the system's unacknowledged anger.
Right. If the parents are miserable, it is somehow the scapegoat's fault. They become the emotional punching bag.
Everything is always Jimmy's fault.
Exactly. Then you have the surrogate parent. This is the child who is completely robbed of their youth because they have to fix the emotional plumbing of the house.
They're making dinner for their siblings at like 8 years old.
Yes, raising their siblings and sometimes even parenting their own parents just to keep the peace.
And then we also see the mascot. This is the child who uses humor to calm the storms.
We all know that person.
Right. Everyone has that one funny friend in their group who constantly diffuses tension with a joke at a dinner party. But looking at the mechanics of this, you really have to wonder, is that legendary, quick-witted sense of humor actually a trauma response?
Very often, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Think about what is happening physiologically in that house. The tension is rising. The parent is about to explode into a rage.
The kid's heart is probably pounding.
The 8-year-old child's nervous system is screaming in panic. Then, the child cracks a self-deprecating joke. The parent laughs. The tension breaks.
Wow.
The child's brain registers a massive wave of relief and learns a powerful lesson. My humor controls the danger. If I am funny, I am safe.
And they carry that exhausting performance into every relationship for the rest of their lives.
Yes, because they don't know how to relate without performing.
I want to push back on one of these family roles, though, because it's the one we talk about the most, the golden child.
Ah, yes. The favorite.
Right. The research categorizes them as victims of this system, too, but I have a really hard time feeling sorry for the golden child.
That's a very common reaction.
I mean, they get the excessive praise, they get the new BMW at 16, they get their mistakes swept under the rug while the scapegoat gets punished for breathing wrong. Are we really supposed to view the favorite as a victim?
The resentment toward the golden child is completely understandable from the outside, but their position is actually an incredibly dangerous psychological trap. If we look at the mechanics of their reality, the golden child is not actually loved for who they are. They are conditionally praised for how well they reflect the parent's greatness. They are a trophy on a shelf.
Oh, so they're still falling out of the mirror's frame?
Precisely. The parent isn't seeing them. The parent is seeing their own success reflected in them. If the golden child drops the ball,
Like if they fail the test or decide they want to be, I don't know, a struggling artist instead of a corporate lawyer.
exactly, if they deviate from the script, the parent's love vanishes instantly. It is replaced by icy withdrawal or severe criticism.
That's terrifying.
It is. Whether you are the scapegoat taking the hits or the golden child wearing the heavy crown, you are fundamentally playing a character to survive an emotional famine. You are never, ever safe to just be your authentic self.
Playing a character to survive a famine, that is such a powerful way to frame it. But here is where the research takes a massive pivot.
Yes, moving to the other end of the spectrum.
Right, because we've been talking about neglect, scarcity, and rigid control. But the data also dives into the polar opposite, the modern epidemic of limitlessness.
Which is becoming increasingly common.
Yeah, it proves that a flood of the wrong kind of good thing is equally destructive.
The pendulum swings aggressively here. We see environments where a child's every single move is declared extraordinary.
Oh, look how amazingly you ate that cracker.
Exactly. In these homes, boundaries disappear completely. The natural, healthy developmental thought of I am special mutates into a rigid, unshakable obsession. I demand special treatment.
The research uses this brilliant analogy about the championship cup. We see this in modern parenting where everyone gets a trophy just for showing up to Little League, right?
Yes, the participation trophy culture.
And I know parents do this out of love. They don't want their kids to feel the sting of losing. But if you look at the brain chemistry, what actually happens when you sever the link between effort and reward?
You hijack the child's dopamine system. The reward center of the brain is designed to release dopamine when we overcome an obstacle or master a difficult task.
Right, it's supposed to reward hard work.
When a parent provides the reward without the effort, the reward stops being a goal to strive for. It becomes a baseline entitlement.
So they just expect it.
Yes. The child steps into the real world, faces a minor challenge at their first job, and their brain literally cannot compute it. They think, I showed up, so where's my championship cup?
And when you combine that entitlement with overprotective parenting.
Snowplow parenting, some call it.
Yeah, when you swoop in and remove every risk, when you argue with the teacher about a bad grade so the kid never faces a consequence, you're robbing them of a vital physiological life skill, aren't you?
You are. You're robbing them of the ability to build resilience by surviving a failure. When a child is never allowed to fall, they never learn that they possess the internal strength to get back up.
That makes so much sense.
Their ego becomes incredibly inflated, but structurally it is made of spun glass. The slightest criticism later in life can cause a total psychological collapse.
So Where exactly is the line? I mean, how do you know the difference between healthy, loving encouragement and accidentally raising someone who thinks they can bend reality to their will?
It's a delicate balance. The psychological middle ground is an emotional climate where two things exist simultaneously: deep visibility and firm boundaries.
Okay, so seeing them, but keeping limits.
The mechanism is simple. Praise the effort, not the innate trait. Instead of saying, you are a natural-born genius, which inflates the ego without anchoring it, you say, I saw how hard you worked on that complex problem.
Praise the sweat, not the crown.
That's a great way to put it. Praising the effort teaches a child that their value as a human is inherent, but success requires actual sweat.
That shifts everything. But we really need to look at how these individual micro-traumas interact with the macro level of our world.
Because the world outside the family has a huge impact.
Exactly. Because when you combine severe emotional trauma with our modern culture, it locks these narcissistic behaviors into place, completely destroying a person's capacity to build healthy relationships.
The darkest notes in the data deal with the mechanics of severe physical or emotional abuse. Yeah. Abuse forces a child to a very sharp, very brutal crossroads.
It's life or death to their psyche.
To survive an actively hostile environment, they must build a massive, shiny shell over an incredibly fragile core.
The text uses this really intense comparison. It says it's like going out into the harsh world driving a Panzer, a heavy steel tank.
It is a striking metaphor because it explains the dual nature of the defense. Does driving a tank work? Yes.
It keeps the bullets out.
In the short term, to survive an abusive household, 3 inches of steel armor will deflect the bullets. But the long-term price is devastating. That bulletproof armor restricts all psychological movement.
Right. I mean, you cannot hug someone from inside a tank.
Yep. Exactly. You cannot be vulnerable. You cannot experience true intimacy. The tank keeps the toxic people out, but it entirely destroys healthy relationships because no one genuine can get in.
And the research explains that this armor is built on top of an internalized worthlessness schema.
Yeah.
For those not familiar with the term, what exactly is a schema in this context?
A schema is basically a mental blueprint. It's the invisible operating system running in the background of your mind, dictating how you interpret the world.
Okay.
If constant negative feedback and abuse write a blueprint that says, I am fundamentally broken and unlovable, the mind creates a terrifying distraction.
To cover it up.
Yes. The person adopts a loud, aggressive declaration of, I am far better than you, solely designed to hide the terrifying truth of their blueprint, which is, I am far more fragile than I think.
Wow. And this is where culture swoops in as an accelerant pouring gasoline on the fire.
Oh, absolutely.
The research argues that our society, and specifically the architecture of social media, acts as a funhouse mirror. Or, more accurately, it turns the mirror into glass.
The mirror turns to glass. That's a powerful observation. Instead of looking inward to process our emotions and understand our true identity, we stare obsessively at our own curated reflection.
We're just constantly swiping, curating, posting.
We trade the difficult, meaningful, and often messy search for who we really are for a cheap, algorithmic obsession with superiority.
We just want the rapid dopamine hit of likes and followers.
But, with social media actively rewarding this exact kind of grandiose exhibitionism, are we culturally doomed?
It feels like it sometimes.
Right. Are we just destined to become a society of isolated people shouting about how great we are from inside our individual tanks?
It is a profound concern, but the psychological data provides a beautifully grounded counter-perspective here. Social media demands perfection, and perfectionism certainly commands admiration. But it prevents actual human contact.
Because it's fake.
The research emphasizes that small flaws are what actually bring human beings closer together. In relationships, seeing and gently acknowledging someone's flaws is far more protective and bonding than ignoring them. Because reality-based loyalty is vastly stronger than idealization-based admiration.
Exactly.
Perfect admiration requires a pedestal, and pedestals are precarious. One wrong move and you fall off. But loyalty based on the reality of being a messy, flawed human allows for connection on solid ground.
Admiration isolates. Vulnerability connects.
That is incredibly profound. Let's bring all these puzzle pieces together because we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have. If we synthesize the entire framework, the conclusion is undeniable. Narcissism is a complex, multi-factor equation.
It's not just one thing.
No,
Right.
it involves the freezing cold of silent neglect, the intense unearned heat of overspoiling, the physical harshness of abuse, the prevailing winds of our social media culture, the foundational seeds of our genetics, and of course, the rigid roles we are assigned within the family arena.
It really is like molding clay.
It is exactly like molding clay. You cannot leave the clay too cold and formless, devoid of attention and structure, but you also cannot heat it up so fast with unearned praise and intense pressure that it cracks under the strain.
It needs the right environment.
A healthy, resilient identity requires a dash of humility, a measured, stable amount of self-love, and a clear understanding of boundaries.
An emotional climate where a child can internalize the core liberating belief: I am deeply valuable, but I do not have to be superior to anyone else to prove it.
A self that is solid, flexible, and doesn't need to blind everyone else with its light just to feel seen.
You know, it's so easy to listen to all of this data and immediately think about that toxic ex or that annoying boss or that friend who drains your energy.
It's very tempting to point fingers.
It is. It's easy to sit back and say, wow, their parents really messed up the clay. But the research leaves us with a thought that turns the spotlight back on us. Narcissism isn't just the other person's problem.
Not at all.
Under the right stress, in the right conditions, when we feel inadequate or threatened, we all stand on the edge of this defense mechanism. We all reach for the heavy armor when we are scared.
It is a fundamental human reflex to protect the ego.
Mm-hmm.
But as adults, as parents, friends, managers, or just people sharing a community, we have agency over the emotional environment we create for others.
We do. So I want to leave you with a final challenge drawn straight from the heart of this research. Think about your day-to-day. Think about the people you interacted with.
Your kids, your coworkers.
Yeah, your partner, even the barista at the coffee shop. What kind of mirror did you hold up to them today? When they looked at you, did your reflection help them feel truly seen, flaws and all?
Or did it force them to hide?
Exactly. Did the way you interacted force them to add another inch of steel to their armor? It's something to carry with you next time you catch someone's eye.
A very important question to ask ourselves.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found some aha moments that help you navigate your own relationships a little better. And as a friendly reminder, if you loved this exploration into the hidden mechanics of how we tick, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you are always caught up on our latest deep dives. Until next time, take care of yourselves and pay attention to the mirrors you hold up to the world.